All right, now, flipping and pitching is hands down one of the best techniques for catching bass. Year-round catching bass from Mexico to Canada, anywhere that you can find thick, heavy cover, you're going to be able to catch bass flipping and pitching. So once you, like, we're not going to talk about the type of locations. We're just going to talk about what type of baits that you need to throw, what factors you need to consider in order to catch bass flipping and to catch more bass flipping. Now, there's two different factors. One is the type of bait that you're flipping, and two is the weight that you are flipping. Those are the two major factors. Those are the two major things, the two major variables that you need to consider when you're flipping and pitching, whatever type of cover it is. So number one, we're going to talk about the type of bait that we're flipping and pitching. Number one, for me, in the type of bait is a bulky bait. There are times when, like a Missile Baits D-Bomb, it's a 4.5 inch ribbed body bait. It's a big, bulky bait, as you can see there. That is going to be my first go-to. A jig is very similar. It's a bulky bodied bait. It's a Missile Jigs mini flip jig. The jig is a bulky profile bait. The D-Bomb is a bulky profile bait. There are times when that bulky profile will outfish any other profile of flipping bait. That's the first kind. Like the other end of the spectrum, big and bulky is one thing. The other end of the spectrum is skinny, straight, with an erratic fall. That's a Missile Baits Missile Crawl. I discontinued it because nobody understood how good of a bait this thing is. We do still make a few special runs for customers that understand its power, but the any kind of straight bait. I mean, you can take a Zoom trick worm, a Missile Baits Quiver 4.5 or 6.5, just a straight worm with not much water resistance, no action to it, just that straight worm can be absolutely deadly. A lot of times that happens when you have high pressure, either high pressure weather or like a ton of fishing pressure. I finished third at Elite Series event a number of years back when Keith Combs won down at Lake Falcon, flipping that Missile Crawl, and I was going right behind other anglers. It wasn't like I had anything to myself. I was going right behind other anglers and cracking them on that little Missile Crawl because it's just straight, nothing action. I'd flipped a D-Bomb a ton in practice, and I had one bite. I picked up that Missile Crawl, and it was like a light switch had gone off. I did the same thing at Neely Henry in a late summer tournament a number of years back. Finished third there, caught almost every single fish on that Missile Crawl, fishing areas that I had fished in practice and never had a bite. So that there are times when that straight nothing action, I mean, anybody that fishes in Florida, you know what I'm saying. They definitely get on that straight, no action flipping bait. That is a big deal. Then the third type is any type of bait with action, any of the Rage stuff or any of the, brush hogs or destroyers. This is a baby destroyer right here. I absolutely crush them on this thing. Flipping and pitching at times. They just want something with some kick, with some action. That's just the three different types. So if you're kind of rolling through your baits, a lot of times you don't need to, when you're trying to figure it out, don't need to roll through 7 different types of one lure. You need to pick one good color and then go through the 3 different types of baits I just talked about. The bulky, the thin, straight, and then the something with some kick or some action. Those are the 3 different types. So that's one part of it right there. The other part of the equation for flipping and pitching is the weight. I mean, there's a reason that the mini flip comes in a 1/4 ounce, a 3/8 ounce, and a 1/2 ounce. It's not, this jig was not designed for dragging around on the bottom, so that does not correspond to different depths that you're going to be fishing. That talks about the rate of fall, the ROF. I may have just made that up. No, I didn't. I've heard it before. Rate of fall is a big deal when you're flipping and pitching. I've seen it numerous times. There's a reason that a lot of people, they sell a lot of these 3/4 ounce, half ounce, 3/4 ounce flipping weights, 1 ounce flipping weights. Not only is that important to get through the cover that you're fishing, but it also has that speed factor is one. The speed that it goes down through the water column can cause a reaction, or it can cause them to ignore it. It's two different ways. I'll tell you a quick story about my man Ish over here. It's my man Ish right here. We were fishing a tournament, Bassmaster Elite Series tournament at Lake Pickwick. It was flooded, a lot of bushes in the water. It was April, so I thought every bush in the whole lake was going to have a fish on it. I had fished a tournament, similar time of year, similar water level, and man, you could just kind of flip jigs and D-bombs at will, whatever, didn't matter. I was struggling the first day of practice, struggling, and called Ish, and he said, dude, it's easy. Like, I'm crushing them. And I said, what are you catching them on? He's like, D-bomb, whatever. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I almost didn't believe him. And I talked to Ike and Ellie. He had similar practice to me. The only difference was Ish was flipping a half ounce weight. We were throwing a 5/16. Different rate of fall. Now, you don't think there's, 5/16 is just slightly under a 3/8. So there's a little over an 1/8 ounce difference there. You think maybe that's not a big difference. I can tell you what, me and Ike and Ellie both sat down and cut off our 5/16 and put on a half ounce weight, and I turned around and went right back down this bank that I had just fished and not had a bite. I went right back down through there and had 3 bites, caught all 3 of them. They were all good fish, and I was like, holy crap, this is the deal. I think he's right. Went around. You could kind of catch fish everywhere once you had bumped up to that heavier weight. Now, those fish would either hit it as it was falling. Some of them would do that. A lot of the fish, what was happening, I think those fish were around the base of the trees, the base of the bushes. When that heavier weight went down and made contact with the bottom, like that, came down, boom, it would be about a second or two, and then you'd feel thunk, and the sucker would pick it up and take off with it. Something about that weight hitting the bottom around those roots, around the base of those trees, around the base of those bushes, man, that thing would hit the bottom, boom. You'd hold it for a second, boom, there they go. Good times, let the good times roll, you know what I'm saying? So that was a big deal. I think that, the contact with the bottom can be a factor, but that speed can be a factor too. And it's not always faster is better. Not always. I've seen times when you have to go the other way, when you have to go lighter. That's especially a big deal in the post spawn. But it could be just a factor that you don't understand, you don't know. Going from a 5/16 down to a 1/4, so you get a real slow fall going down through there, or even a 3/16. You pitch it, you're going relatively shallow, having that thing just kind of drift on the way down. No matter what action bait you're throwing, whether it's the action bait, the bulky bait, or the straight bait, that lighter weight, that thing just kind of meandering slowly down, that can be the ticket too. So, all right, to recap what we're talking about here, the flipping factors to get bit, the type of bait and the weight of your bait or on your bait are the 2 major factors on whether you're going to get bit flipping or pitching. Once you've kind of figured out the types of places, whether it's the docks, the shallow end, the deep end, laydowns, grass, what type grass points, grass pockets, what type of grass. There's a lot of different factors on where you get bit. That's not what I'm talking about here in this video. This video particularly is just talking about the factors on what's on the end of your line. When you reach to pick up that cash and flipping stick, and you're wanting to know what's on the end of your rod right there, what's tied to your sun line there. I usually flip fluorocarbon if I'm able to. If I'm fishing matted heavy vegetation, I will go to braid. It's kind of the only time I usually flip the shooter, sunline. But anyway, if anybody has any other questions, drop it down there in the comments. Let's get a little dialogue started. I'll do my best to keep an eye on the questions or the comments. If you want to, if you have a particular factor maybe I didn't talk about or didn't think about, or if you have a situation where you got bit on a particular action, weight, and your buddy had a different one, or your buddy smoked you out of the back of the boat or out of the front of the boat, and then you had to change factors, change baits, change weights, whatever it is, to catch up to them. I'd be curious to hear about that as well. So let's all learn together, and we can go flipping and pitching and smash them, baby. Yeah. Woo.